one of the arguments always was, oh, well, the DA is never going to win at a national level, so let's secede or let's have our own independent place. The reality is now that with the multi-party charter, we have a clear pathway to victory. The parties in the charter, around 36% of the national vote, that's just 16% shy of a majority.
I would likely call this a reality check. My wife would probably be a bit more blunt and say, John, money can't pay.
Hi, John. My question is about Cape independence. Can it even happen, and do you think it's a good thing?
Well, thanks very much for the question, Mark. I just don't think it's a realistic prospect at this stage. And I look where the low-hanging fruit lies for us as a party in the Western Cape, and that is through devolution.
And this was a very extraordinary answer, and the reason is this. In 2019, when he was elected, Premier Alan Winde made the devolution of policing and rail the central issue of his election campaign. That was 5 years ago. And in the 5 years, we're now coming to the end of his term in 2024. And of course, he has spectacularly failed to deliver either the devolution of policing or rail. He's asked,
why don't you give us the opportunity to try that as a lead up to changing our system of management of police in our country? Minister, I think if we tried that, and I can assure you that we will do it together with all three spheres of government.
The topic itself is disguised for the benefit of a particular skin color. The DA ideology of thinking Africans in the Western Cape are foreigners is nonsensical and must be rejected. Therefore, the topic of the devolution of SEPs must be weakened and paralyzed.
The DA tabled their devolution bill, and literally, as he was speaking last night, the public hearings were taking place. That devolution bill, the Western Cape Parliament had two legal opinions and said it wasn't constitutional. And literally at the moment in time that John was describing devolution as the low-hanging fruit, the ANC literally stopped the public hearings on devolution from taking place. So the notion that somehow devolution is the easy solution, the quick win, the low-hanging fruit, is clearly utterly nonsense. Devolution cannot be delivered in the current context. Ironically, Cape independence is the low-hanging fruit.
You can talk about independence all you like. Scotland's been talking about it for over 100 years. Catalonia has been talking about it for just as long. Quebec in Canada has been talking about it for just as long. And we can have those existential debates and say, well, independence is better than this or the next thing. The reality is, and the real politic is that the low-hanging fruit lies with devolution.
Does John not know what the history of those countries is? So first of all, Scottish independence absolutely wasn't impossible. It was absolutely possible. The UK government held a referendum, allowed Scotland to hold a referendum, which both parties agreed to be binding. And had Scotland voted to leave, Scotland today would be an independent country. The only reason that Scotland doesn't have independence is because the Scottish people voted not to have it.
No, 139,788.
That is it. Scotland has voted no. The result in Fife has taken the no campaign over the line, and the official result is a no.
Quebec, exactly the same situation. Quebec has had two independence referendums, which the Canadian government agreed to, and had Quebec voted for independence, it would be an independent country. Now, Catalonia, John, has some merit there that once again illustrates that critical point. What happened in Catalonia? The difference is that the Spanish government didn't agree to a referendum in Catalonia, and the Supreme Court of Spain ruled that the referendum must not take place, but they went ahead with it anyway. So the issue in Spain was that the referendum wasn't legal. Here we see an issue around independence. Independence absolutely is possible, but what we need to have is we need to have a referendum that is conducted in accordance with the Constitution. And here's the reality. In South Africa, John, why he has to go begging for devolution, and he's not getting it, he doesn't need to beg at all to hold a referendum for Cape independence. The Constitution, section 1272F, clearly states that the Western Cape Premier can call a referendum. Doesn't need to ask for the national government, doesn't need to ask for the ANC, and actually, The low-hanging fruit, the easy pluck, is a referendum on Cape independence. They can just call it. John, all you have to do is walk down the corridor, say to Alan, call the referendum on Cape independence. That whole example of countries that John said have been fighting for independence for 100 years and can't get it, and that's how difficult, are actually examples of just how easy it can be as long as a referendum is held.
We're over the finish line. I don't believe in factions and fractions. I believe in uniting and leading the whole. And I want to rescue the whole of South Africa because I fundamentally believe that we are better together and that our country can reach new heights, and we can do it, but we can only do it with a new government at a national level.
In 2021, the multi-party charters collectively got 33% of the vote. John said last night they've now got 36% of the vote, and they're only 16 points away, as if somehow they're on the verge of victory. Of course, the reality could nothing be further from the truth. Since 2021, we've had all of these disasters. We saw last year 332 days out of 365 had load shedding, and despite all of that, the multi-party charter has moved from 33% to 36%. Ultimately 3 percentage points in 3 years, but John would have us to believe that we're now on the verge of victory and 4 months away from the election, we can somehow magically add 16 percentage points more in the next 4 months. Of course, absolute pigs will fly. There is zero prospect of 2024 of the multi-party charter forming a majority government. But even beyond that, let's just go one step further and just for a minute imagine this magic wand that somehow do exactly what John wants to do. And we can see what happens because they've already done it in Joburg. In 2021, the ANC got 34% of the vote in Joburg. DA got 27%, the multi-party charter got 46%, ANC and the EFF together got 45%. So exactly the scenario that John is now saying he's going to save us and mean we don't need Cape independence has already played out in Joburg. Did that result in all of our problems being solved? Is Joburg once again goldy, the city of gold, and everything is now well with us all? Of course it isn't. It's turned into an absolute disaster. So much of catastrophe that in 2023, what did the DA do? The DA said they moved a motion calling for fresh elections in Joburg because Joburg is so ungovernable that it's just impossible to form a working government.
And that should show you at home every vote counts. We won the World Cup, Rugby World Cup, 1 point. Drickus won with 1 point. Maybe Bafana going to win with 1 point. And who knows, we may even win the election later this year with 1 point. So let's get excited about it. We can make it happen.
John, can you imagine, literally, if we win just with 1 vote?
No, I'd prefer to have a bit of comfort.
And the very solution that John and the DA is telling us is unworkable in Joburg, he now is telling us is the panacea for all of our problems in South Africa. And of course, that is sheer nonsense. And we have to come to the final realization that there's only one easy win. There's only one low-hanging fruit, and it's not going to be easy. And that is Cape independence. It's the one thing that we can control. The Western Cape is the one area ideological minorities like us are in control. We have the ability to call a referendum and create a future that we want here in South Africa, on the African continent. So the solution here, the real politic, is for John to say to Alan, call a referendum on Cape independence. We'll do what we can in the rest of the country. But clearly, devolution is not a low-hanging fruit. The focus should be on Cape independence. Now, if you support Cape independence and this makes sense to you, then please vote for us in 2024. We're the referendum party, and this is our promise, that we will help the DA, will allow them to keep in power in the Western Cape, vote with them to allow them to form government to keep the ANC out, but we will force them to listen to the majority of the Western Cape people who want a referendum on Cape independence so that we can set about creating a first world future for ourselves and our families in the African continent. If you want to find out more about us, then go to www.referendumparty.org or follow us on social media at Vote Referendum.